This week, leaders from all over the world are gathering in Beijing for the third Belt and Road Forum. In fact, common development and prosperity are the common aspirations for all. And dialogues and discussions about them are not only taking place at the forum site, but also in a place like here, the Sri Lankan embassy here in Beijing. Right behind me, earlier, just a few minutes ago, a full house of Chinese and Sri Lankan business people interacting with one another and also discussing their business issues with the top delegation coming from Sri Lankan government. So you can see the energy and the synergy taking place over here. And right after the event, I got the honor to talk to His Excellency President of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe. And here is our conversation. He talked about his fascination about the Belt and Road Initiative and how his country is having its latest plan to work on its economy. Mr. President, what a pleasure to see you once again in Beijing.
Thank you. It's my privilege to be here.
I know you are having a very busy schedule. Our conversation taking place immediately after the ITT forum that your embassy organized to invite more Chinese businesses go to Sri Lanka. But let me ask you about the third Belt and Road Forum. You were here in Beijing for the very first. And now when we talk about high quality cooperation, what do you think is the meaning of it in terms of BRI cooperation between China and Sri Lanka?
It means high standards are maintained in the outcomes of the decisions we take, in the infrastructure we provide, in the economic outcomes, but we all aim to maintain high quality. That's there in today's BRI.
It's of course the most important aspiration, but how to do it when we are having multiple challenges? You know, economic challenges, climate challenges, geopolitics, and many other things. So with your wisdom, Mr. President, how are we going to make it high quality under all these circumstances?
We have many challenges. We have to overcome that. Now look at the old Belt and Road. What were the challenges they had? They had even more challenges. So let's look at climate is a challenge not only for the whole world. Belt and Road, BRI, all of us must get the world to focus on it and to find solutions. Debt restructuring is another issue which we have to go. So there will be wars, there will be geopolitics, but it is our ability as a strong organization to face them.
During the ITT forum, I noticed, Mr. President, you talk about the resilience of Sri Lanka, the strength and wisdom. Meanwhile, you talk about the potential of tourism for your country, and at the same time, how to take great advantage of the platform of Belt and Road Initiative. So among all of these possibilities, how quickly do you think you can bring the country on a path forward despite the difficulties?
Next year, we hope to go in for positive growth and to increase it by 2025. And by 2026, we should be on a good path.
That's pretty ambitious, I would say, Mr. President.
If you don't have ambitions, you can't achieve anything.
Well said, but how to do it?
Well, firstly, as I said there at the meeting, we focus on the low-hanging fruits like tourism, the foreign employment, and then we start expanding gradually because we have to build up momentum. At the moment, the global economy is also not faring well, and we are coming under pressure, especially on the fuel, both from Ukraine and from what's happening in Palestine and Israel. So we've got to face those. But once Sri Lanka gets into a positive growth, which in my view will take place next year, then it's a question of pushing it forward. So by 2026 we could be satisfied with it. Meantime, we get the investors in. What we do today to get tourists in will only be seen by again 2025 or 2026. So that's the time, I think. But it's short compared to most of the other countries.
Let's talk about the energy and also agriculture sector. In the interaction, you tell us very clearly as to what are some of the projects might be for businesses to take part in. So how much attraction do you think they can be?
No, I think if you get the businesses in, it will work like a magnet to get others in. So I think it's very important. The ones who come first are the most important.
Are they Chinese?
Well, I presume many of them will be Chinese.
They're already there, aren't they?
Yeah, but now the next stage of expansion, when the whole of the Indian Ocean economies are picking up after COVID.
You are actively seeking free trade agreements.
Yes,
You had one already with India. You want to expand it.
that's right.
With Japan as well.
Yes,
You want to develop it. With China, you are engaged very actively for a free trade agreement.
right.
And you are also working on other possibilities such as RCEP.
That's right.
There's a lot on your hand. How would you manage to do all of this all at the same time? How would they, interact with one another as things goes along?
If you have to do it, you have to get it done, but that means you get a large market. Sri Lanka is only 22 million. So you want from Sri Lanka, if you establish there, to reach out to other markets.
Reaching out to the market. Well, you are having that aspiration. People are asking you, oh, you probably have to do this before you join RCEP. You probably need to do this before you expand our free trade agreement. So what are you going to do? It seems you have more on the plate.
No, we go along. We decided we'll look at all the countries, going for special free trade agreements where we require it. Otherwise, well, RCEP itself is a framework for FTAs, so it's not anything new here.
So how would you rally the whole country to do that? I think that's also a critical question.
No, we have to keep explaining why we want this. That's what I have been doing. I said, look, we have to be export-oriented economy. Our market is only 22 million, so I have to find a bigger market. And the biggest market is the RCEP market.
What's going to be the strong points of Sri Lanka as a result of this bigger market?
No, one is the Sri Lanka's location in the Indian Ocean. Other is we are becoming more and more competitive in each other's sectors. And we hope our ability to reach out to RCEP, to India. So we are just creating the background or the framework for a large market access.
You seem to have a very big vision, Mr. President. You want Sri Lanka to be a bridge linking the whole areas together.
That's right.
But there are a lot of complexities of being a bridge, as you know that, sir, especially these days.
Yes, certainly.
So what does that mean?
Well, in a way, we are in a bridge breaking age, but then you still need the bridges, so let's build there and make Sri Lanka an area where people of whatever nationality or whatever country can come in and find a platform that is common to them.
Despite geopolitics?
Yes.
Despite the climate issues? Despite all of these difficulties?
As far as climate issue goes, well, we want to be climate friendly.
I noticed that you and your colleagues have talked a lot about the new developing areas. For example, ICT rather, and also agriculture technologies, infrastructure, green infrastructure. So how do you see you can build the both momentum and the environment for investors to be drawn to your country?
Well, my idea is to start early. So you attract them. No one else is focusing on it. Let Sri Lanka focus on knowledge. So in the next 2-3 years, we will go ahead. And then we become that much more attractive to people. Basically, we have the human talent. We're going for a green economy. We'll be a logistics center. And we'll be friendly with everyone.
That's not easy. Sometimes they're asking for different things.
Yes.
What does that mean for a politician like you? You've been so many times serving as the prime minister, and now you're serving as the president in a country where now there seem to be bigger challenge than all the earlier times. So, Mr. President, it takes a lot.
Yeah, but if we don't do it, what are our options? We won't survive.
Very pragmatic, I see it in that answer.
We have our back against the wall, that's all.
One of the things you also talk about is the financial cooperation between Sri Lanka and China. For example, your central bank governor was earlier talking in details about RMB and the local currency in Sri Lanka. So how will this mechanism work? What does that mean for Sri Lanka?
No, again, it means for us that we are going in for a multi-currency, or we can deal with multi-currencies, and it's acceptable here. We will not be tied down to one currency. I mean, that's a trend in our part of the world, especially with the coming of the BRICS. We are looking at being able to reach out to a number of currencies, multi-currencies coming in from different parts.
Diversification, very important. Why?
That's if the world, that's the way the economy is going. For instance, you find the Chinese economy is growing. Then unlike earlier, there's the American economy. Sometimes it's not cooperation, it can also be competition. So we should be able to reach out to whatever the sector there is.
All at the same time.
All at the same time.
How would you see some of the points you just mentioned earlier? For example, green. I know Sri Lanka, like many other economies, is vulnerable in terms of environmental problems, particularly climate change, because of your wonderful geographical location. So how to make sure you are resilient after natural disasters could hit once and again?
Well, in human civilizations, however much you fall, you have to pick yourself up. It's the ability and leadership that takes you through. We are all going through a difficult time at the moment in every sphere, but still we have to go through with it. In a way, we have to change the world. The world has to become greener. If not, there will not be a future for all of us.
What are some of the ways you are trying to deal with climate change? How could this crisis become an opportunity?
No, we are working with other countries on the debt restructuring, but what we are putting forward on our own is the International Climate Change University. It will be a platform for all ideas to be examined, for scientific data to be used to base decisions, and also the exchange of ideas. So we are putting that forward. I've been talking with Maldives to come in so there can be a center for the small island states. We are talking with some of the others too, so that we could get this university going, and it will be the focal point on climate change.
And the upcoming climate summit, of course, COP28.
Yes, again, there the issue of debt is going to come up, and we will be pushing hard to ensure that there are some results.
It's very hard to get results these days.
I know. Yes.
How are you confident you are going to get some results?
No, I think they made some moves last time. You have to pressurize more, I presume. Because after all, climate change affects everyone. Developed economies, underdeveloped economies. So there has to be a give and take at some time.
You know, climate change could lead to hunger, could lead to poverty, and these are just a very rampant phenomena in many developing economies, including island states. So what do you think you have as a magical tool to let other economies to understand what you're going through and be able to work with you? For example, during COP28 upcoming.
No, I think it's not a question of working with It's how we work together to get into one target and to be able to deliver it. I think we had the Paris summit talks recently on how to get the funding. It's a question of the countries deciding we are getting together. And for instance, when African states said they want certainly debt relief, we backed them. We didn't go to put our own proposals forward. So like that, there has to be areas of cooperation. I think Africa has to take a certain lead in this issue. They are the worst affected.
We understand earlier, years ago, developed economies have agreed to provide a certain kind of financial support for developing economies, especially those vulnerable to climate change. But that funding has been having difficulties reaching to the hands of the needs. So, Mr. President, what do you make of this phenomenon, even today?
Well, I can't see how much the developed countries are going to contribute. We have to really keep pressure on. Otherwise, it's difficult. Now, despite the pledges made on climate financing, finally, in some of those countries, more has been spent to finance the Ukraine war. So it's just what are your priorities? Where do you get there? It's a difficult task, certainly, but it has to be tackled.
So, Mr. President, we are at this third Belt and Road Forum. It brings a lot of leaders from different parts of the world together. How do you see you and your colleagues can be not only committed to goals, but also be able to deliver and demonstrate to the world that this initiative, with the hard work of everyone involved, will be a great platform for all?
No, it's now we meet together and we have to agree on a course of action. I have no doubt on it. We have about 5 different areas. But this is the only body that has been meeting and producing some results. There are other bodies we meet, but in many cases we don't have results. So we must ensure that the third Belt and Road Initiative will show definite results.
What are the definite results you are looking at?
I'm basically looking at the climate financing and the green Belt and Road. That should be. And thirdly is how Belt and Road becomes a more integrated system.
How more integrated are you looking at it?
The economies, culturally the exchanges. Exchanges should take place and integration should take place where necessary.
This is the very first forum after 3 years of pandemic. Mr. President, for those who knows our history between China and Sri Lanka, earlier it was with the blessings of the kings and the emperors and the traders and the monks back in ancient time. But now we see business communities playing such a critical role from both sides. So, Mr. President, how would you be able to beef up their courage to invest and also their courage to look for opportunity in each other?
No, firstly is to enable a few to come and invest. That's the way it starts. Then you encourage more and more. People also looking around. Yes. Many of these are members who have so far been dealing in China, and the question is giving them sufficient courage to go out and expand. But if you don't expand, then you are going to be in one place. So all of them must go and capture markets outside.
China and Sri Lanka, the relationship dates back in decades and has established a diplomatic relations decades ago to showcase to the rest of the world how the developing countries have been working together. Now, of course, the two countries are at different stages of development. How do you see the nature of this relationship now?
Our relationship started with the Rubberized Pact. It's undergone many changes. Yes. It's how we can now, we have to work together at this phase to encourage both, as I said, climate, to deal with the climate issues and to have closer trade integration. You get those two together, the rest will fall into place. I think the cultural relations are anyway taking place with China and Sri Lanka and other countries.
Mr. President, what a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you all the success.
Thank you.
And that's our special program today on the ongoing Third Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation. I'm Tian Wei from the National Convention Center in Beijing on behalf of my teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.